following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Good evening, Wednesday evening. Welcome to the Couchcasters podcast. I'm Jeff. This is Parker, Hunter, Scott. Everybody's in the house. 4 for 4 tonight. What's up, gentlemen? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Big win last week. Parker and I burned on a little bit, right after the game Saturday night. We enjoyed that immensely. Jalen Milroe finally came into his own, really announced his arrival. Looked like something switch went off in his head, and he got it. He was like, "Man, I'm faster than everybody out here."
Yeah.
And if
I
run like I can, nobody can touch me like this. But blows through 4 guys, all had the angle on him. Touchdown.
He was unreal Saturday. And his decision making was just we've seen flashes week after week. He's getting a little better, but I mean,
and the funny thing is, Scott, is he missed about 3 touchdown throws. Now, one of them he got it back immediately by scrambling in, the one he missed to Bond. But a couple of those deep throws, he just made bad throws.
Yeah.
But a good throw, that's 2 more, at least 2 more touchdowns on a couple of those deep throws he made. He just, he was just off throwing it deep. Saturday night, which happens, some of those deep balls, but he probably left 2 more touchdowns out there as well as he played. He missed probably two touchdowns easy because he made up for that one to Bond. But you're right, Fonz. His decision-making, his confidence, his poise, like his commitment when he took off running and he was toying with him. He's running sideways, act like he's going to throw it, knowing the whole time he's about to go.
It was really good. Yeah.
God, it was beautiful. Awesome. It was like an artist.
And it's something I've thought of. I'm sorry, but it's something I've thought of for the past couple of days. It's a little bit of everything. And I want y'all to think about this. Is it the comfortability level?
Thanks, Nick. Faces in all of them, buddy.
Leaving us speechless. You're welcome.
Welcome to the game. Thanks, buddy.
But yeah, it goes a little bit to this. Maybe it's the confidence without, hey, this is your team as the quarterback. It's time to, be decisive, make some smart decisions and smart plays as the player itself, but maybe a little bit of both on the coaching staff. Finally digging into knowing, hey, this is our quarterback. This is the plays that we should call and scheme for him because, hey, we're very successful. I've got a little handy-dandy write-down right here. If you want to know some little quick stats for you, I'll throw them to you. So I wrote down just some generic things, just usually the top 2 for each position. So for passing, this one, obviously Jalen didn't throw for a touchdown, but he was 15 for 23 for 219 yards. He got sacked twice for 12 yards. Okay, that's a lot better than what it was leading up to this game. Daniels went 15 for 24, so Jalen missed 1 less pass. So Jaden Daniels, he passed for 15 for 24, 219 yards, the exact same amount of yardage as Milroe. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, got sacked once for 4 yards. The rushing is where the stats come out. Again, the 2 leading rushers for both LSU and Alabama were Milroe and Daniels. Milroe had 20 attempts for 155 and 4 TDs on the ground. Insane night. And Daniels had 11 attempts, 163 yards, had 1 TD on the ground. Receiving, Obviously, we didn't have anybody who had any receiving touchdowns. Our leading receiver was Bond with 5 for 60 yards. And for them,
Starting to
it
win
was
me over big time.
Yep. And Malik Neighbors, he had 10 receptions for 171 yards and 1 touchdown. So
He was a beast too. One big drop though.
Yep, one big one. For defense, I just wrote down one thing as far as tackles go. Leading tackler for Alabama was Caleb Downs. Shocker there. 8 solo tackles, 4 assisted. I did also include Terrion Arnold. He was in second with 4 tackles, 1 assist, 1 interception. That was crucial when needed. For LSU, leading tackler was Penn the third. I'm sorry, it's a G as his first name. Don't
he's
know
the one that lowered his head and tagged where that was. Nobody's complaining about that though.
He had 6 tackles, 4 assisted. Give an honorable secondary mention to Harold Perkins, 6 tackles and 2 assists. That's those are your stats for your butt today.
We'd like
ladies and gentlemen.
Take a moment of silence for Harold Perkins for getting killed by Jalen Milroe going in the end zone. He was a good kid, hell of a player. Hate for him to have ended that way.
Where we really killed it, though, was, I'm looking at the total yards here and the third down efficiency. We went 11 for 14 on third down on Saturday. That is insanely good. Insanely good. That's over 80%. That's got to be over 80%. LSU, they didn't do bad. They were 4 for 9, but we were obviously 11 for 14. We were put in that position a little bit more, surprisingly, but I guess because we faced a little bit more of those positions or possessions. Total yardage, we had 507. They had 478, so really not really much of separation there, by about 30 yards. Guys, I know they were a very lackluster defense that we played against on Saturday, and I know I rambled on there for a little bit for stat-wise, but I'm seeing something here. I'm really seeing some change, some authority, some stuff that I've really dogged on, and dogged on some of these players about having some kind of leadership. Getting the team surrounded about you. I'm seeing leadership all around the board by the linebackers. Hell, I'm even seeing it by the young freshmen. Caleb Downs is showing me a lot, but then again, I praised a lot on him when he came in this year. I see us doing really well from here on out. I've got my concerns, scares, nervousness, whatever you call it, but I don't know. Y'all tell me.
It's a culmination of everything that's been happening all year in one game, which is extremely encouraging. Can't happen at a better time. The offensive line clearly figured something out. I think a lot of the QB designed runs weren't called earlier in the season because the offensive line probably wasn't executing in practice. They probably weren't able to do those things. Obviously, that was a huge factor Saturday. Milroe looked more comfortable yet again. He improved yet again. The running backs, Jace and Roydell both had some crucial runs in that game as well, that extended drives.
And Jam Miller going in there too. We're starting to use him a little bit too, and I love that. Mm-hmm. I think he is a factor. And another player that we're going to start utilizing more, Kendrick Law. We're going to start running him, do some Debo Samuel. We're now.
That guy looks like Debo Samuel, man. He's built like him.
This
looks like a beast.
I haven't felt this good in a while, and now we've got play calls for these players to have them on the field, being able to make plays when those are given. Like that triple option choice on one of those, I think Milroe ended up taking it in for a touchdown. He could have optioned it off to his running back. He could have pitched it to the up back or passed it, but decided to take it in or pass it to the up back, of course. But I don't know. It's giving more me confidence in this offense. And I'll call a player out that I have been dogging on for a while. Now, I know it was against LSU, so take that as you will, but maybe some of these play calls benefited this certain player. I'll give it a call out to Caden Proctor. I saw some dominant moves from him this weekend, some actually really good blocking technique. Shocking hearing me put that in the same sentence. Caden Proctor, good form. He. I mean, obviously, he had a couple plays he missed. I mean, it's okay. You know, with how they played on Saturday, I was very, very impressed. Left a little on the board, but I mean, Will missed a couple. Was a little upset or sad with that. But then again, you know, it happens. People got off games, so there's that.
I think a big difference is Jaden Roberts.
Yes, indeed.
They seem much more physical as a unit, and they're getting to the second level a lot more.
And we were
It was
playing
a wedding Saturday night, but I watched most of the game.
Yeah.
You know, afterwards, and
Scott
I
had
just
priorities.
noticed, you know, Proctor, especially too. You mentioned Proctor. He's getting to the second level a lot. I mean, there was one play I think I saw on Twitter. He blew 3 guys right out of the play.
Yep.
That's just special. He's a monster. I mean, he takes
He
up
is a
half the
mauler.
field, so.
That's what we remember in the preseason. We were like, these guys are just going to maul people. And then we were running, you know, Bryce Young offense for 6-7 weeks. And it's like, these guys aren't pass blockers, man. They're maulers. Let them block forward. Let them fire out and not first step back, you know. And him and Booker and Rock, man, they just set the tone. Those guards, man, they were just mauling people all night. They were like you said, Fonz, they were getting to the second level. They were finishing blocks. They were blocking guys 15 yards down the field into the grass. And I'm like, I mean, get nasty, man. And Milroe running for days back there.
Shout out to Tommy Reese too.
Yeah.
I always forget
Yeah,
to
a lot
mention
to do with
him as
that.
well. I think a lot of people do, but
I mean,
great
he's
game
earned
plan.
the criticism so far, but Saturday was his best game, may have been ever. His best called game, maybe ever. Everything worked, and it helps when you got a quarterback that can just make people look silly with his legs. And I know he says he doesn't want to be a running quarterback, but to have that ace in the hole,
certainly helps.
that's not a bad ace card to have there.
LSU's credit too. They played a hell of a first half. I mean, I was not expecting the ending of that game to go out the way that it did just based on that first half. Like, I thought it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last, and it's going to be like a 3-point field goal. And that's what's going to come down. I was not expecting
I'm
that
exactly
result.
with you, Murph. I was like, whoever has the ball last is winning this game because neither defense can stop a nosebleed.
Yeah.
Well, and Daniels was doing the same thing. I told Parker earlier, I was like watching something on loop. Then he dropped back, plant his right leg, run left, 40 yards, cut back to the right, another 20 yards, pushed out of bounds.
Rinse and repeat.
Next possession, back up, plant, run left, 40 yards, cut back to the right, up, pushed out of bounds. I'm like, good Lord, he's running the same play every time.
But see, that is the formula that has always beaten us with Saban. A quarterback who is a true dual threat, who has great passing ability, which in my opinion, I think Jaden Daniels might be the 1 or 2 quarterback in the country. I really do. This guy is legit. I didn't think he was much last year, but his passing ability, he is on point. He's better than Quinn Ewers as far as quarterbacks we faced this year. His accuracy and his, use of his legs is just uncanny. And I wish the best for him. I know he got hurt, but he's legit. He's a dog. He's real. So
Plus, he wouldn't even be in the conversation if he wasn't there.
Agreed. They would be probably a 6-loss team, maybe
Easily.
a 7. I mean,
Nussmeier can sling it, but he can't play like this kid.
well, and see, a couple stats I saw on him, and everybody talked about how he had a bad game. Well, he had 10 He had 10 throws and he completed 5 of them. He's 50% in a situation he never even expected to go in. I know, it's next man up mentality. He did okay. And, with experience, I know he's on the older side, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's I think he might be a junior, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that to be particular, but yes, very happy with this weekend. Very, very happy.
And then we got the big blue, big bad Wildcats coming this weekend. 11 a.m. kickoff. That sucks.
Yeah.
Too many good SEC games.
I've got what the score was. I'd bring the score back up here.
42-28.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, I think I want one last thing on the LSU game, and I think you wanted to bring it up earlier, was the hit.
Yeah.
And the targeting shills are out in full force, baby. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're all.
We rigged the Tennessee game and we targeted Jaden Daniels.
Oh gosh, dude! I mean, I've been having the best time on Twitter reading some of these shills about targeting. Just unbelievable. And I'm like, you people obviously haven't been around football very long if you think that's a dirty hit.
Well, Saban he has bounties. He puts bounties out on all these quarterbacks.
Stupid.
And
why would we wait till he shredded us for 500 yards to knock him out?
So.
I mean, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
If we had bounties, why would we wait till he killed us and hung 28 on us before we said, okay, now take him out? That's a risky gamble.
Yeah.
Counted for 400 total yards of offense. It's like, all right, now it's time.
All right, now it's time.
Yeah. I mean, he's lucky that Milroe answered him. Otherwise, what if we're down 28 zip? Then it's like, okay, the bounty's in. We're too late. That's so dumb. I mean, this is some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard on Twitter, and trust me, that's saying something. But it's all the vials, too. The vials are all piling on. All the Tigers are all piling on.
Shocking that the dirty vials would be involved.
Lane Kiffin running his yap, dude. Talking about targeting is unquestionable targeting. And I'm like, how about some blowback on the coach that put him back in the game?
Yeah.
Exactly.
The dude couldn't even see the sideline. And they're like, get in there. Come on now, let's go, boy. Let's go now. Come on now.
Come on, boy. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, boys. Let's go.
Did we not watch Tua freaking die on the field?
You know what grinds my gears? Coaches not taking care of their players when they don't need to be in there. Players don't know any better, okay? They're athletes. They're going to go out there and compete.
They're going to say they're good.
Right.
They're going to say it's okay.
Dallas Turner
and they're checking his jaw. They're checking his jaw. They're checking his jaw. Even if it was broken, do you think he would say it wasn't? I mean, if he's a true player,
rolling on the sideline.
He was drilling.
Snot bubbles back there.
I mean, it's not funny because the guy could have taken another hit and done a situation like Tua last year with the fingers and the thing that is just absolutely terrifying and gets hit again like that. But it's horrible. You've got to be better as a coach on
your
that.
right tackle for not being able to block him. I'll be mad that Dallas spends most of the game in the quarterback's face. Sorry, Hunter, go ahead.
Especially when he has such a promising future ahead of him. The coach is like, no, let's just put that on the line. Just get back out there. Because I don't have a choice.
It wasn't targeting. He didn't lead with the crown of his helmet.
So what I've heard and seen now, there was another angle of it. Of course, the broadcast camera had that particular one that everybody's seeing. And anybody who ever comes across this podcast video, I want you to remember this. Do not watch still shots. You need to watch the live play as it happened. Still shots do not. The only time that actually works is like in tic-tac-toe and poker, maybe. You have to have it in emotion because when you watched it, as you watch it live and then you watch it in slow motion, Dallas Turner's face and face mask are in Jaden Daniels' chest, and maybe a little higher than that, like in his chest. Unfortunately, Jaden Daniels being a little bit smaller than most quarterback, he's like a Bryce Young. Maybe he's a little taller, but when Dallas goes and tackles, he ends up picking him up, and it looks like he's hitting Jaden in the face or underneath the chin with his helmet. It's the process of the tackle. And on another note, he didn't even put his full weight on him when he finally hit the ground. And if any of y'all saw that, you saw he immediately rolled off the quarterback. If he wanted to hurt him, he would have landed fully, completely on him with that 255 pounds at that speed. The guy, there was no way he was going to be able to stop. It was a late hit. It was a roughing the passer by letter of the law. I'm sorry, a 6'3", 6'4", 250-pound guy can't stop in 3 seconds like that. I'm sorry that that's not possible, but it is by letter of the law that. So, yes, I will agree with that, and they got the call right. But guess what? Let's say it would have been targeting. It wouldn't mattered. Jaden Daniels is still out of the game. Dallas Turner is out of the game. You're down by 2 touchdowns with Garrett Nussmeier. I'm sorry. Yeah. Is that not? Yeah. Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, at that point, we could have kept scoring at that if we wanted to. So, yes, and Dallas would have been out the first half of this game too. And I know that LSU submitted the video. Okay. I think nothing will happen. That's what I think.
Submit the video of Brian Kelly putting him back in the game. Submit that video.
Yeah.
Again, don't get me on the topic of being irresponsible as a coach. I'm sorry. That's just
the video you need to submit right after that, Brian Kelly.
That's enough to get me riled up. I am not big on that player safety. If we're talking about player safety here, that you just can't do that. Sorry.
It was flagged too.
Yeah, I mean they got the roughing the passer.
They would have gotten. Yeah,
it was the same deal, but it by today's standards, yes, but that was a football play.
No, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying like they got all the benefit from a targeting call, except now Dallas Turner's not.
It would have been irrelevant whether they targeted him or not. It would have been irrelevant other than Turner out of the game.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's just. It's brain dead, is what it is. It's clueless.
It's
saltiness. It's all those things. Yes.
And I'm not shocked by the Vol fans being on board with that.
Not.
I mean,
they're still crying about us kicking their ass 2 weeks ago.
But hey, nobody. I've seen that circulating the video last year too of Bryce Young absolutely getting decapitated. Literally by definition, launching into the head or neck area and the whiplash. So
I mean, just
enough of that. I won't even dwell back into that. We were talking about the blue cats, the cats from Kentucky.
Yeah, the good old 11 a.m. kickoffs.
Yikes!
Love those.
Wonder if I'll be awake.
He's got a good running back,
I will be.
I mean, we're going to have our hands full with that.
And good old Will be there.
Good old Will.
Celebrity appearance.
I don't know. This game intrigues me for a half.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into my prediction a little early, but I think we'll probably go in there and beat them pretty handily. At least 3 touchdowns, I'd say. Devin Leary's been playing better in recent weeks. He was not good for about 7. So it really just depends which Leary shows up, and I think that'll dictate how bad this game or how out of hand this game gets. But especially if we played like we did last week, man, it's going to be a beatdown. I hope it's a beatdown.
Yeah,
me too.
I think it'll be a good first quarter, at least. They'll probably come in hot.
Yeah, whether that storm, our defense takes a couple quarters to really kind of find their groove, speed of the game, the pace, speed of the guys, the team. And then about second half, all right, this is how we're going to play them. This is how we got to play them now. And they usually finish it off. I mean, the second half scoring differential over again in our biggest games this year, that total is just insane, like 87-13 or something like that. I mean, give up 13 second half points total in 4 games, and that includes Tennessee and LSU and Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's three of the highest scoring offenses going.
It's incredible. I mean,
number one, LSU was number 1, I think.
Yeah, by far too, or not by far, but I mean, pretty handedly. I think Saturday we saw we can put together a complete game for 60 minutes. You're always going to have to balance the offense and the defense, and the offense is going to have to pick up the defense at times, and the defense is going to have to pick up the offense. Yeah, it's just the nature of the game, but they helped each other out Saturday in a big way. And if we're beating LSU like that, I think we could probably beat anyone in the country, or at least hang with them and give ourselves a shot. So I
was about to say, if we're scoring 42, 38, 35, 38, 42, I think we're winning every game, including Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
The second half, man, defense is a different beast.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said Saturday, it was a blessing to go into halftime tied because I knew we were going to limit them in some way in the second half. It was on the offense to execute, score enough points to beat them.
Yep.
But,
it's like we had to keep them within a score. We had to stay within one score of them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering they scored and then got the ball back and scored. That was huge. Had we been down 14 like that instead of down 7, that's a big difference. So the fact that we stayed, pace for pace, and then it could have gone real bad the way the first half ended. They went right down the field and scored, like no problem. Then
that was partly my fear. That the biggest strategy is, all right, let's just run up the scoreboard as much as possible with an Alabama team that averages maybe 30 points a game.
Yeah.
To the point where it doesn't even matter. They can't catch up with this offense. But it didn't turn out that way.
I don't think Kentucky can score like that, but, they present their own set of problems. That running back's a badass, so we can't let him get loose. We got to be disciplined in the gaps and good tackling, and everybody's got to do their job defensively, and we'll be fine. But it's when you have those mental errors, then there's a gap, and then he's gone for 60 yards, or just something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't see. Here's the benefit from to actually all of your points, playing as a team, playing a full game as a team, relying on both the offense and defense to do what's needed to be done. You're not going to play against another quarterback of that stature and prominence until you get to the playoff. Leary's a good quarterback, no doubt about it. And then you play Chattanooga next week, and then you play the dual quarterback system at Auburn.
But they're going to watch that LSU film with Ashford, man, and they're going to have some plays in there to get him out on the running.
Well, and I've said this all year. If they had a mold of both quarterback qualities, Auburn would probably be a pretty decent team. They're hurt with a lot of injuries on their defense, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, even if we play Georgia, I don't think Carson Beck that's right. That's his name. Just want to make sure. I don't think he's of that stature. I think the closest you can get to a Jaden Daniels type caliber player obviously would be like Caleb Williams, but we wouldn't be seeing him. Be either Bo Nix or what's the guy from Penix?
Probably Penix.
Penix from Washington. I mean, I would say Jordan Travis, but he's more of he can use his legs, but he's more of a passer.
Their whole receiving core is 6'5" too.
Yeah,
so
and that's
deserves
insane.
A little less
And
credit.
a couple of them are hurt too, which is that's absolutely insane. I think they can be had as well. Which I know we briefly talked about the Kentucky game there. Did any of y'all have any other things on that by chance, or because I got one thing I kind of what kind of grinds my gears. Maverick's not going to show up for that, but it's something that's definitely grinds my gears a little bit. Anybody have anything on the Kentucky game? No.
I think we'll beat them pretty bad. You were gone when I was kind of going over it, but
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good.
Yep.
Ray Davis in conference has kind of been a different player than he was earlier in the year. He had that one game, I think, against maybe Florida.
Yeah, he went off. He had over he had over 250. That's right. Yeah. A couple TDs.
That's pretty much it in conference. He's had some solid games. I think it's just going to be ironing out the inconsistencies and having a good first half, and this game will be no issue. I mean, I hate to underestimate an SEC road game, but the way we played last week, there's no reason this shouldn't be a huge win. And the Vegas spread is absolutely hilarious, if you ask me.
What is it?
The fact that it went down. Yeah.
I didn't check this morning, but
it went down.
It did. It went for like 1 point. I was like 11.
It went down because everyone was putting money on the spread for Alabama.
Yeah.
That's why it went down.
What was the spread to begin with?
Opened at 11 this week.
Now is it at 9?
It was at 10.5 yesterday. I haven't checked today.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see if it went down more.
But the more money people place on Bama, it's going to be a laughable spread. Means I'll probably put money on Bama.
I went back up. I actually went back up to 11.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just interesting. Food for thought. 11-point spread's hilarious to me. I don't know.
So
Georgia Ole Miss is still 11, right?
That's going to be interesting.
Georgia's up 11, getting 11 points. Ole Miss is getting 11 points at Georgia, as you said?
Yeah, that's the spread.
Wow. No respect.
I think, and I think the Ole Miss offense is a tad bit more dynamic than Missouri. Missouri did okay. If
Missouri didn't revert back to old Missouri, like Jeff put it.
Burden, his name?
Luther Burden, yeah.
Luther Burden, he got hurt, and it kind of just messed everything up for them after that. I mean, he's dynamic, but I needed to get y'all's opinion on the college football playoff rankings this past week. He actually came out yesterday. Some of them I'm not too shocked about. Other ones I'm a little concerned with as far as implications for maybe we don't control our own destiny at this point. And I know it's voted on a week-to-week basis as a fresh slate, but come on, you and me as the regular fan, we know that's BS. We know there's favoritism out there. So I kind of wanted to go over a couple here.
That shows with the Oregon ranking.
Yeah, and that I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeff, because we've got some stuff to talk about that. But I wrote down the top 10 rankings from this past week, and there are 3 remaining games. So you got Ohio State at 1. I know their schedule was kind of backlogged this year. Did they deserve 1? I don't know when it comes to it. They play Michigan State, Minnesota, and Michigan. If they were able to get through all that, they go to the Big Ten championship. So, Jeff, what do you think of that? Hunter? Oh, thought y'all were frozen. I'm sorry.
Of
Ohio?
Like
For-
you have
for
Ohio
Ohio
State's
State.
remaining.
Yeah, I mean, what do you
I
think?
mean, it's their only test is Michigan.
Michigan. Yep.
You know,
Yep, so I think-
they'll cakewalk to Michigan. Michigan hadn't played anybody either, but they got Penn State and then Ohio State in 2 weeks. And
Yep.
so that'll but I don't think Penn State's going to beat Michigan either. Penn State doesn't really win games like that. So I think Michigan and Ohio State are going to be undefeated going into that game. And unfortunately, we won't get a rematch in the Big Ten championship game because Iowa will be sitting there with 2 or 3 losses, however many losses they have, with them winning the opposite division. So, Ohio State or Michigan is going to knock each other out. Washington and Oregon will play again, so one of those two will knock the other one out. Ideally, the chaos I would love to see would be 5 one-loss conference championship teams, which would mean us being one of them. But if
I just don't see Florida State losing a game. I just don't
Florida
see it
State's-
happening. I just
I don't think it's happening.
Louisville in their conference, like
yeah.
unless
Yeah.
they
I mean, and now,
absolutely pike one, which I
and
don't
that's
see
the
that
thing,
happening.
because you
Who
look
does
at
Florida State have left?
Florida State has Miami,
well,
North
yeah.
Alabama. Yeah, they got Miami this weekend.
that's
I'm
at
sorry,
Miami
hold on.
too, right? I think
Yeah,
it's at
but
Miami. So
Miami,
that might actually be good.
oh God, they are horrible. They are, from what I
But
was
it's a
listening to,
rivalry game. It's
Well, and then
It's
the
big
Gators
time.
at the end.
Yep. And then they
So-
got the
Well,
Gators.
Florida State's got one
Mi-
possible loss in there, maybe 2 if Florida gets lucky or Miami gets lucky.
Miami, North Alabama, Florida, and then the ACC championship. They were ranked number 4 in the country this year. Or I'm sorry, this week. 2 and 3 were Georgia and Michigan. Georgia has Ole Miss this week, which is that's a sleeper game. I'm
think so,
really
too.
kind of
Could
going
honestly be
back and
toss-up.
forth on it. I mean, if Ole Miss gives everything they got, they could pull out something. Their offense is dynamic. But after the Ole Miss game, after you take, if it's a hard fought game, guess who you got next week? Tennessee
Tennessee on the road.
on the road in Knoxville. It's pretty
Georgia
tough.
Tech.
And then Georgia Tech, who's actually been playing some competitive football this year. They have a pulse, people. And if that's the case, they get to the SEC championship. Michigan, they got Penn State this week. Jeff says that's a snooze fest, so we'll have to see on that.
I've been wrong
Never-
before, but I'm
Penn
not putting a
State's
lot of stock in Penn
not
State.
competitive in that. Yeah.
Does it hurt us more for Georgia to lose to Ole Miss and Tennessee?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need Georgia undefeated when we play them in the championship game.
because even if we beat an SEC championship, I could be like, well, okay, well then no SEC teams go into the playoffs.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm
That's just
saying.
it.
Like,
'Cause,
as long as Texas keeps winning, and we're ranked below Texas, if there's a bubble and it's us or Texas, Texas is going. So we don't really control our own destiny, because if we finish with the same record as Texas and it's between us and them, it's not going to be us.
Texas got Oklahoma. Like is their last big one? Is that
No, Texas has no.
They got beat.
Yeah.
Well, let me get to that.
The
real
conference
quick.
Then they'll play Okie State in the Big 12 championship game.
Yep.
hmm
So,
I'm not a man. I'm 40.
That's a game Texas would lose, though.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
they
saying.
lost last
Yeah.
week or last
never
year.
say never?
Never say never. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, somebody's got to lose. If Texas wins out and we win out, that's not good for us.
Well, I've
We gotta
been,
have Texas lose.
and I'm always like this because I have to ruin everyone's mood, but none of this matters right now,
I know.
to be honest, because
It doesn't.
it's every year, and I love talking about it and getting into the nitty gritty. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade and be a stick in the mud, but in 3 weeks, this conversation is going to be completely different.
Completely.
There's going to be
Agreed.
a Michigan or Ohio State loss. There's the potential for Florida State to slip up. They've been rolling, but you never know.
Yeah.
And if Louisville beats them in the ACC championship, they're out. And Louisville is not in because they lost to Pitt.
Mhm.
Right.
Ooh. Pitt is awful this year.
And they're terrible. And it wasn't 35-31 in overtime. It was 24-7.
Oh,
I mean, it was.
And
an
Louisville beat
ugly
a
loss.
team, a Notre Dame team that was ranked number 6 in the country at the point of that loss.
yeah.
It was. This has been a
There's
great.
a bunch of things that can still happen, and we can still get in. I'm just saying, if the scenario gets to where 1, 2, 3 are decided, and it's between Texas and Bama at 12-1 for number 4,
we're out. I agree.
we're out.
I
Well,
agree.
That was my only.
The crazy thing is this.
But yes, we might be number 2 in 3 weeks,
Right.
and it won't matter. But yeah, that was my what if scenario.
I'm with you.
The last 5 or the last 6 positions, Washington is number 5. They play Utah this weekend, who's got a good defense but no offense. They play Oregon State, who they have the former Clemson quarterback. And then they have the Washington State to end the season, then the Pac-12 championship. Then after them, Oregon, who has USC this week. Then Arizona State, then Oregon State. Pac-12 rematch against Washington.
That Oregon State game could be interesting.
Very interesting.
I think there's a high likelihood both those teams lose a game the rest of the way. I really do.
And honestly,
we're going to get the Pac-12 championship week saying Washington has to win to make it.
Yep.
I really do. I think Oregon's probably out of the conversation at that point. I hope, at least. USC fired Alex Grinch, so maybe they find some fire and beat him.
That makes no sense. Like, this guy's been a crap DC for like 6 years, and Lincoln brought him with him to USC. What'd you think was going to happen?
They gave up 600 points in the last 6 weeks.
Good grief.
God.
You knew that guy was
It's
going to
so
get fired.
sad towards the end with the video.
So
he's not even involved in the conversations anymore. It's so sad.
So, I mean, the craziest thing is this. Texas right now has the easiest path. They play TCU this week, Iowa State, and Texas Tech, and then the Big 12 championship. We're at 8. We play Kentucky, Chattanooga, at Auburn, and the SEC championship. Number 9 and 10, Ole Miss is at number 9. They play Georgia this week. Then they play Louisiana Monroe. That's an interesting team. Look back in our history at that game. Then we play Mississippi. Then Ole Miss plays Mississippi State, and then question mark SEC championship. I'll get right into that real quick.
I don't think it matters what they do. I think
Penn State, they play Michigan, Rutgers, Michigan State, maybe a Big Ten championship. The reason my dark horse for the playoff is Ole Miss. They have 1 loss right now. Alabama somehow loses this game against Kentucky, then loses against Auburn. Ole Miss is sitting at number 2 in the West right now. Number 2. So somehow we end up with 2 losses. They end up with, if they beat Georgia somehow, Georgia's still going to be over there in the East, be happy. They make it. They play Georgia again for the rematch. They have 1 loss total. Where do they go?
I mean, a lot of boxes have to get checked for them.
A lot of boxes.
I was
and
gonna
it's a lot of
say,
pandemonium.
This is like a praying for absolute chaos, because the only way
worst case
they
scenario
get even close is if Alabama and Georgia collapse. A.
Yep.
And B, the rest of the country just goes haywire.
Yes, indeed.
But they are in a good spot if everything goes crazy.
Exactly. I just wanted to throw that out there because I wanted to see exactly y'all's reactions. It was the exact way I thought it should be.
No, I don't want that. That means Alabama has had a really bad last 3 weeks.
Y'all's reaction. Sorry.
Parker's going, I told you so in a month. I'm going to be really upset.
The answer should be Parker sniffing glue if that answer becomes correct, because that's not good at all. Then I think the only legitimate chances right now is anybody 1 through 8. and that's obviously rounding out at us. Washington and Oregon, that they're gonna end up canceling themselves out, and then Alabama playing. So like the top. Seeing and when I keep looking at this, and it keeps just blowing my mind why I know we benefit from it, but I think it should go to this format with the no divisions,
Yes, no divisions is good.
Because Ohio State and Michigan should, if they're the top two teams in the Big Ten, they should play each other. Or it's the same thing it should be in every conference. The top two teams should play each other. And I know why divisions were created was more of like a geographic kind of concept at the time, which makes sense. But if we're looking at it now, we in Auburn should be over in the East, and Missouri should be over in the West. And I mean, so at this point, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And
it
then
should have been
Oklahoma,
the top two teams all these years since 1992 when they set this thing up. It should have always been just the top two teams.
So
I don't understand the point of the divisions and then doing the division champ, and then one of them 1 year South Carolina had like 4 losses. And,
Auburn played them twice that year.
yeah,
and
and then
smoked them
Auburn
twice,
slaughtered them.
both times.
Michigan played Purdue last year. With everything
that's
on
horrible.
line, they played Purdue.
Iowa is going to be in the Big Ten championship game this year, and
Yeah,
they're
can't
so
score.
hard to watch. They even got the Steelers colors, man. It's like, can you imagine being an Iowa fan and a Steelers fan, and that your weekends consisted of watching Iowa on Saturdays and then watching the Steelers offense on Sundays?
I mean, you could line up like a 7-man defense against Iowa, and I still think they'd probably score 24 points. They'll beat you because their defense is, I'll give them credit, their defense is really good, but it's going to be a slugfest in those trenches.
They're like winning Stallings ball. Like Jim Stallings football.
I mean, they're stuck in 1987. It's brutal.
Yards in a cloud of dust.
It is ridiculous to an extent because, I've maintained this whole time, if Alabama just wins out, Georgia's undefeated, and we beat them in the conference championship, we're in. I think an SEC championship is the most important thing you can have in regards to the playoffs. But Ohio State and Michigan, they play during the regular season, obviously, but they're basically a shoo-in if they win that game. All they got to do is go and beat Iowa. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
That's like Clemson State championship game last few years.
Yeah.
They played Boston College one year or something, and they beat them by 50, and it's like
they played Pitt one year, and Pitt was a decent team. I mean, they were a 10-win team that year, but
not playing in a conference championship that good.
Yeah, like Florida State this year, I have respect for Louisville, and I think Brom's done a good job there. I actually like them. I think it's fun when they're good, but Florida State and Louisville in an ACC championship game it's kind of putrid.
News fest.
It's ridiculous.
It's like the Diamondbacks being in the World Series. Like,
yikes!
I enjoyed that.
I did not.
But
screw the Diamondbacks. They can all rot in.
After that, it was rough. Or I'm sorry, Louisville lost to Pitt 38-21, so it was even uglier than I suggested.
They only have 2 wins this year.
Yeah.
What are they? 2-6, 2-7?
I think 2-7. So we gotta hope. If Florida State wins out and Louisville wins out, we gotta hope Louisville finds a way, because with everything else going on, I think that pretty much guarantees us a spot. I think
FSU does play at the Swamp, so that might be a little bit of a game changer.
Unless Napier shows up.
Yeah.
If he shows up for the game, I like Florida State's chances a lot.
Yeah.
If he gets COVID and misses the game, I bet the line changes almost to a pick, almost to a pick 'em. I don't think Napier's much of a head coach, although he did well when he was an assistant with us. But
He's recruiting like hell. I just don't know if he's going to be able to develop them.
I just don't see it.
Hope he can.
He can get. I mean, he can get players, but I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, how does LSU have 3 losses this year with that offense? They're putting up better numbers in the Burrow, Jets, Jamar trio. They have 3 losses. LSU only came close to losing 1 game that year in 19. That was us. Other than that, they slaughtered everyone. I think
Except
Auburn played them close. Yeah, I think Auburn played them close.
That
Other
game
than
was
that,
close.
they mauled everybody. And they set records galore. And Daniels is ahead of pace of all of them. Neighbors and Wilson Jr., they got more yards, touchdowns than Jamar and Justin had through 9 games. It's like nuts. It's like I didn't ever think I'd see 4 years later. There they are. But they have 3 losses. That's impossible. That's impossible.
It's absurd.
I mean, that's insanity.
And looking back, it would have been nice if they could have won that game week 1.
It would have helped.
Really
right now.
nice.
That would have really helped us right now. I'd love to be playing Texas next week. I think we dust them next week.
I think about that a lot. It's like if we had this team right now that played
They caught
Texas,
us at the right time. They caught us
They
at
really
the right
did.
time before, week 2's a lot of things are still getting ironed out. The defense hadn't really discovered itself yet, hadn't really found its identity yet, hadn't started putting people in the tent again. And
That's another argument I think I'd make is right now with our, if we dominate the rest of our schedule and Texas wins all their games but kind of limps along, I think there's a possibility with a Georgia win that we could jump them. And that's a lot of
like you said, if Texas struggles with some of these the last month, and maybe barely ekes out the Big 12 game on a field goal or something,
like a Kansas State kind of result.
Yeah, and we look. I'm not saying we're going to play as well as we did last week every week for the rest of the year, but if we win convincingly and then take down Georgia, it's a big if. I mean, that's a big if, But if we can take down Georgia, you're right. We can make a case. Schedule was tougher. I know we lost head-to-head, but schedule was tougher.
The committee said, they're on record saying, too, we don't weigh that week 3 loss as much as their week 13 dominant win in the conference championship, So ultimately, as we said, we don't control our destiny, so a lot still needs to happen, and a lot of it will work itself out just because of the teams that are on top playing each other and whatnot. But
I don't know. We're gonna knock each other. That's why these rankings used to just drive me nuts, and they'd come out this early, and 3 of the 4 teams in the rankings would all be playing each other before the end of the season, and it's what's even the point right now? 3 of these teams are going to be out of here.
I go on record on saying that I agree with Jeff's statement that he made probably at the beginning of the season, that rankings on all formats, AP, coaches, CFP, do not need to come out
too many.
still. They need to come out maybe like last week. Yeah, right
Week
up till
7,
about
week 8.
week.
You really
7,
know
week 8.
who your top teams are by week 7 or week 8.
I mean, Colorado was a shoo-in for the playoff until week 4.
Until they imploded.
Good Lord, now they're 4-.
I love me some Coach Prime, but I mean, you couldn't find a show when plastering them everywhere, but you ain't heard a peep in a month because they hadn't won a game in a month.
I was like, this is going to be this year's Cinderella story. If it's going to be the Cincinnati, the TCU, and the Colorado.
I mean, Shador's the truth. I mean, that guy's legit.
But his O-line's trash.
I was going to say, he spends half the game on his back.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
the O-line is just awful. And I was watching some of that UCLA game whenever they played them. UCLA had that defensive end, that really good defensive end. I think he's from Hawaii or something. But, I mean, he was slaughtering that right tackle for Colorado. I mean, it was –
just destroying his soul.
I mean, he was just – I mean, dude, the right tackle was like bent at the waist and everything. And, like, I mean, he was just getting slaughtered by this kid.
Was it hands on the waist and heavy breathing?
No, I mean, even his form, he was so tired by like the third quarter, he'd come out of the hike and he would be like almost bent over like this at the waist because, such bad technique. He was getting worked so bad. And the guys just go right around him. I mean, he would right around him. It was, oh, man.
Prayers out to that guy. I'm sorry.
Bad for Shador that day because he
got
was getting killed.
abused.
I mean, he had no shot. He had no chance. But, yeah, so I'm open for chaos, but as long as Bama wins out and that adds to the chaos. I don't want the chaos that has Ole Miss making a case.
Please don't. Please don't.
Especially when they're right behind us, too.
Yeah, just right there.
So, I mean, there's that crowd there. Oregon shouldn't be ranked ahead of Texas and Bama. It should be Texas, Bama, Oregon, 6, 7, 8, in my opinion.
Oregon being there is kind of a joke, in my opinion.
We'll see. I think we're going to take care of business Saturday. I mean, obviously – Chattanooga's a tune-up game, and then that Auburn game in Jordan-Hare, the voodoo is real, very, very real. So,
and it scares me.
That's going to be a big hurdle.
Auburn could have lost every game this season. I would still be worried about that game.
Yeah, in 21, it took overtime for us to gut that win out, which bled into the next week when we slaughtered Georgia because we had just gone through a grind in Jordan-Hare, and Georgia was not going to, as good as they were not going to put up a fight like that. And somehow, we won that Auburn game, and that momentum and going through that game almost made the Georgia game a little easier, because we just survived that. We just survived Jordan-Hare. So, Georgia Dome, turf, well, with our speed, there's no problem. And it was on the way to that in the championship game when J-Mo got hurt. But so
my bigger question is: Does Tennessee and Ole Miss kind of beat or knock the wind out of the sails of Georgia by the time we get there?
I hope so.
Maybe. It's better for us if Georgia's undefeated and we beat them in the championship game. That would be the best thing for us. So I need Georgia to be undefeated by that first Saturday in December. And maybe we can have a flashback of 21 and we can take them down again.
Be a beautiful thing.
Man, anything's possible, though, with Jalen and the running game and him being a running threat now. I mean, so much changes.
Yeah, I think I still have questions about Georgia. I really do.
Me too.
Carson Beck's been better.
Is he still out?
No, he played
Bowers.
Okay, sorry, I didn't even catch it.
Bowers is out, yeah.
Bowers is
still out.
Okay.
And Dumas Johnson or whatever his name is, their star linebacker.
Yeah.
But I still think, and it sounds crazy because I said the same thing last year and I was made a fool of, but there's still some questions there. We see it all the time in these conference championship games where you have this elite team, and I still think Georgia's very good. They're a top 5 team in the country, certainly. But
yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Have they been up to the challenge before? Can they beat another big dog? I don't know. Can Carson Beck show up when the lights are on?
I mean,
he can beat Kentucky. He can beat all these other teams, but we'll learn. In the next 2 weeks, that's for sure.
He's not faced a pass rush like we got.
Nope.
And if we can get there, if we can handle our business the next 3 weeks and get there, that's going to be a big strength. I said the same thing about LSU. It was like Daniels was carving everybody up, but he had not faced a front seven like ours, and he dusted us for a half plus a series.
But see, that goes to the point.
But
what I said about playing a dynamic quarterback, I don't think Carson Beck is
Yeah.
a Jaden Daniels. He
No.
is not that he could beat us with his arm, but can he make the plays with his legs? Because that's the tools to beat Alabama at quarterback. You got to do both. I don't know if he has
Especially with the games they play, he's never even had to, with the weapons he's got over there.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, anybody got any final thoughts before we sign off? And I'm going to try to get a guest on next week to talk some Bama stuff with us. So I'll keep you guys posted on that, whether I can line that up.
Sounds
Did we ever talk about the Michigan drama going on? I think we did briefly.
I think we did briefly, but I didn't think it was that big a deal, really. I mean, I don't know how deep.
I didn't realize that
goes, but
the man in question was literally right there on the sideline. I thought he was just in the stadiums. That's the part that kind of showed.
yeah,
He
I mean,
went to other games.
I don't get it. Those games are all televised. You just get the all 22 film, and you can see everything. So I don't understand the big problem. Obviously, I'm missing something. Because everybody's up in arms about it, and Harbaugh is gonna get fired, or he's gonna take an NFL gig, or whatever, just to do like Pete Carroll. Oh God, here comes the trouble. Back to the NFL.
Did they confirm that a punishment is actually happening though? Like I thought I read somewhere. If anything's gonna be next season.
They filed something to the University of Michigan about an ongoing investigation yesterday. My understanding is what Michigan did by the NCAA bylaws is illegal.
Yeah.
But like Jeff was saying, it's just a stupid way to do what you're going to do anyway.
Exactly. That's perfect. That is perfect description of that.
I don't get me wrong. I think Michigan gained an edge from this that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's for something so dumb. I mean, coaches exchange signals all the time with each other.
Right?
You're not playing someone, you'll just call them up and be like, hey, you also played Tennessee. What did you see? How do they do things? Their offense moves super fast. How do they get their signals in? Do you know what certain signals mean? Is there anything that will tip a run to a pass? All these things are asked well in advance. It's how coaches prepare for a game in any league from high school up. At the same time, I hate Michigan, so I like to think that they are just the scummiest program in college sports, and whatever they did was just gross and totally challenges the integrity of the game. But like I said, at the same time, it's against the bylaws. It's illegal. I don't know how harsh the punishment will be, just because other teams probably do it too. They're the first one to get caught. And people are
everybody's
stealing signs. The way they did it, totally unethical, but especially a team like Michigan, I have a hard time finding that the NCAA will make an example out of them, but we'll see.
And they still choke at the end.
Yeah. One thing remains constant.
That's true. That's true.
But anyway.
I would love a bunch of one-loss teams, including us knocking off Georgia, being in that conversation. So I think that would be awesome. Last year, the 4-team deal, just to have utter chaos with a bunch of one-loss conference champions, however it might shake out. I think that would be hilarious to see how they iron that out. And then have to tell the team that got left out, you're going to the Holiday Bowl or the Citrus Bowl.
Cheetos or Cheez-It. So the cheese.
Yeah, the Cheez-It Bowl or whatever it's called now. The whatever. So anyway, gentlemen. So enjoyed the show this week. I think we'll be back on Tuesday next week. Back to normal week, like I said. Try to line up a guest for us next week just to talk some more Bama stuff. So anyway, so it was good talking to you guys. Roll Tide, man, and hopefully we're talking about us beating down Kentucky next week. Also, remember to like and subscribe. Roll Tide, guys.
Roll Tide.